Them all to what we call the JPAC. The honoree of the JPAC, Paul Gene Adams Commons, correct? Oh, yeah, sure. I should get it right. If it's JPAC, she should go first. Yes, I should know this.
Good job.
Well, you don't have an chance to meet me yet. I'm Scott Wilkes, and I'm in my second year as a director of athletics here at Wilkes University. And I'm very happy to serve as the Master of Ceremonies for tonight's 32nd ever Hall of Fame induction. I would like to start out by welcoming all of our guests, starting with our honorees, L.A. Christophe Howard, tennis, David Breglow from men's wrestling, the aforementioned Paul Adams from football and for the administration, for everything he did. Shake your head right there. Everybody talks about your football playing prowess. The 1972 golf team, and then Chris Light from men's women's tennis. Chris cannot be here. He is down in Burlington, North Carolina, with his men's tennis team from Monmouth University. They're taking on Elon in the second round of the CAC tournament. They're down 1-0 right now. Some good thoughts for Chris. I'd like to also thank the management office, led by Kevin Boyle, Stella Mayer, and Mary Simmons for all of their help, along with the event staff, Bridget Pinta and Megan Pitts. All of this organizational logistics, you couldn't have done it without you, and I am forever indebted to your hard work in this area. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce my boss, the Associate Vice President for Student Success, one of the biggest supporters of athletics, maybe aside from Paul in the history here, but somebody who I rely on a daily basis to help run the athletic department. Everybody, Mr. Markel.
Notice the baby stopped crying. Well, good afternoon, and welcome to the 2025 Wilkes Athletic Hall of Fame induction ceremony. As Scott mentioned, my name is Mark Allen. It has been a privilege to have spent the past 39 years serving this fine institution. Now, I know what you're thinking. We started at 10. All right. Well, anyway, congratulations to those being inducted today. You're the 32nd class of inductees. You join company with more than 150 former colonels and Hall of Fame members, some of whom are here this evening. Today, as Scott mentioned, we're inducting 4 new individuals, members, as well as the entire 1972 golf team, which has good representation here. Among the individuals, L.A. Christophe Howard, who is one of the winningest women's tennis players in the program's history. And then, as mentioned, Chris Light, the winningest tennis coach in Wilkes history. And again, Chris could not be here tonight, but will certainly be recognized. As our wrestling program continues to grow at Wilkes with the introduction of women's wrestling, it's only fitting that we recognize one of Wilkes' most accomplished wrestlers, David Breglow, who has the distinction of being the only athlete in his weight class, was it 190?
Yes.
To qualify for the NCAA Division I National Championship when Wilkes was still a Division I school. And rounding out the individuals recognized tonight is my former boss, as mentioned, who's iconic at Wilkes University, and as we went through the alphabet here, realized that the name of this very room is named after Paul and, of course, Gene here. And if I were on the committee to nominate and elect Hall of Famers, I would have put your football prowess first, Paul. But clearly, his dedication and commitment to the athletic program is second to none. I worked closely with Paul, as did Addie, for many, many years, and the contributions he made, the advocacy in the interest of the student-athlete experience is very, very remarkable, and we'll hear more about that in just a few moments. Also recognized, as mentioned, the men's golf team, 1972. They captured the MAC championship, and I guess we were quite a powerhouse in those early 70s in golf. That year they were coached by Early Schmidt, another very familiar name in Wilkes athletics, and Carl Z, I think was either the assistant or co-coach. Among this evening's guests, I mentioned a number of Hall of Famers. I don't want to embarrass you, but if you could please just stand up and be recognized as Hall of Fame folks, I appreciate it. Very good. Through your own achievements, you've been role models, you paved the way, set the tone, served as an inspiration to our athletes to perform at the highest levels, both on the field, the court, the pool, the ice, the mat. We go on and on as we expand our program. But your contributions were foundational to where we are today. And most importantly, the support of being successful in the classroom. I don't want to forget that. To our current and past coaches in the room, you too provided encouragement, mentorship, and leadership, and that's been instrumental in building character and reinforcing the importance of success in all aspects of student-athletes' lives. And finally, to the alumni, family members of inductees, and everyone else in the room, you're here because you support Wilkes athletics, and you help to strengthen the university's commitment to success of our colonels of today and tomorrow. So I thank everyone for your presence. If you could indulge me for just a moment or two, I know it says I only do the welcome, right? I'd like to highlight a couple of past Hall of Famers that demonstrate the quality of who our inductees will stand shoulder to shoulder with after tonight's ceremony. The Hall of Fame was established in 1993, and the inaugural class had some greats, including Sandra Bloomberg, a two-sport athlete, basketball and field hockey in the early 70s. And then there was Joe Wendell, who demonstrated prowess on the gridiron and as a wrestler, being the only 12-time letter winner at Wilkes University and the only father-son inductees, I believe, into the Hall of Fame. No? Uh-oh.
Dave Kastrap and his son.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. See, I got that wrong there too. My apologies. But clearly a father-son team. Also, among that group was the first director of athletics who coached football, baseball, and basketball, and was known as the father of athletics at Wilkes. I can't tell you the number of alums who told me stories about the profound impact George Ralston had on their lives. He truly was one of a kind. I had the pleasure of knowing him for just a short period of time, as remarkable and inspirational a man as he was. One of my favorite, fondest memories of George was watching him doing the Ralston cheer at the pep rally. Now we flash forward, and I'm not going to go year by year, but we flash forward to the 1998 Hall of Fame class, and there's the great wrestling coach, John Reese. I got to know John quite well as we both participated in a noontime faculty basketball hour for many years. Because we were both of diminutive stature, Kevin and me short, we guarded each other. John often confused the sport of basketball and wrestling, resulting in me having a few bumps and bruises over the years. But make no mistake, when it came to wrestling, John was second to none. He was a giant among wrestling coaches. One of the most winningest coaches in NCAA history, as a matter of fact. Coach Reese racked up more championships and produced more outstanding wrestlers than I have time to mention. And then there's the 95 women's field hockey team. As we recognize the golf team tonight, we were recognizing teams back then, with many outstanding student athletes like powerhouses Kim Caskell and Sue Richardson. And having been led by Hall of Fame coach and longtime athletic director Addie Malatesta, who's here with us tonight. The 95 team went on to win the Freedom Conference and advance to the NCAA championships. And the last example I want to use, who greatly contributed to Wilkes athletics, is someone who never wore a team jersey or a coach's whistle, but he did wear a uniform and had a profound impact on countless athletic contests. A Hall of Famer from the year 2006 inductees is Colonel Bob Wachowski. Colonel Bob, yes, get up. Colonel Bob redefined what is meant to be a mascot. Whether riding into a contest on a unicycle, a go-kart, a horse, or even a helicopter, Colonel Bob lit up the crowd and energized the athletes like no other, and we're indebted to him for his service. Again, these are just a few examples out of a long list of Hall of Famers who brought their talents to the field or the court or whatever venue they participated in and made what Wilkes Athletics is today. So tonight's inductees, thank you for your contributions over the years, and may your induction keep that Colonel spirit alive in each and every one of you. So before I conclude, I would be remiss, I've already missed the Cat Jacks again, my apologies, but be remiss if we didn't recognize the Hall of Fame Committee, the gatekeepers of those who are accepted into the Hall. I know he's here, Garth Jones, Mark Ratto, Maury Lawler, Mike Lebersky, Jackie Claypool, Viv Scalzo, John McNichol, Carrie Ann Geis, Stella Marr, and Scott Muse. So that concludes my report.
Before we get to eating, I'd like to call up our president, Dr. Greg Camp. And as he comes up, I think I can speak on behalf of all my coaches that are here, John Laubenschlager, and Keel Chander, Izzy Metz, Michael Krenian, and John McNichol. Did I miss anybody? I think I got them all. Greg is one of the most supportive people on campus. He's one of our biggest fans. I dare say that he's at more games than some of our staff, and he is very plugged into what's going on, and he understands how important athletics is to the student-athlete experience, to the student experience here at Wilkes University. Could not be happier to work for a man like him. Greg?
Thank you very much to Scott and Mark, and welcome everyone on behalf of the whole university. It's my pleasure and honour to be joining you this evening. A number of you who were here last year will remember that I was a face on there because my 90-year-old mother was having a birthday on the other side of the world. So she's about to turn 91, but you don't get a special trip to turn 91. You will get a special trip because we're grandparents, so that's the reason for the special trip. So, as I said, I'm honoured to be here as part of this important ceremony. And Wilkes has been graduating remarkable athletes since the earliest time that we became an independent college. And those athletes have been inspired by incredible coaches and supported by dedicated administrators. And this 2024 Hall of Fame group represents again those high ideals that Mark alluded to. So athletics has always been part of the DNA of who we are. And while we already had mention of some of our legends, John Reese, the Golden Horde, the reality is that across every generation there have been individuals and teams that have achieved remarkable success. And it's worth noting that that continues. I want to give you a couple of quick examples essentially from this last year. So I think they've probably started their second of a doubleheader. Our baseball team is currently playing against Susquehanna. I think they might have lost the first game. But if we win two more games, they win two more games. When they win two more games, which they will have won more games than any baseball team in our history. And also more games than any team has won in the landmark conference. That's remarkable for a team that last year finished sixth to be doing so well. A number of you might have been reading about Cam Butker. Cam was our 197 young wrestler who went off to the national championships, and he lost in the final against a guy who had not lost for 3 years and has gone where he belonged, into Division 1. Not only is he a remarkably strong young man, he's just been accepted to a PhD program in biochemistry at the University of Pittsburgh. When you look at our women's ice hockey team, they made it into the national championship. And somewhere down the track, we're going to have women from that team or one of our teams who are here, as they will have with men from our men's team, because they are an incredible part of the Wilkes journey, is what's happened for, we have members, at least one member of our starting team in Phil. And they have done remarkable work, both as athletes, but in other accolades. So, Cole, I don't think Cole is here tonight. Cole got All-American 2 years in a row, won numerous other national awards, and was part of that beginning team now, 6 years ago when we started. And finally, we mentioned women's wrestling. It's going to be a few years, but there will be a time in an event like this where someone who did remarkably well as a wrestler is going to be inducted as the first female Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame. And if you haven't heard, our coaches have been doing an amazing job of bringing folk together. And John told me a couple of minutes ago, and I'd actually accidentally met this family, a young lady is coming up from San Antonio in Texas. And it's a fair way from San Antonio to here, but she's come because this is a remarkable place, and she's going to have coaching that supports her, and she's going to be the beginning of an amazing program. So I just take us back to what Mark started with, this idea of student success. What happens as a student athlete fits into the core of our understanding of what student success is all about. Some of that's in the classroom and in laboratories, some of it's in theatre and in auditoriums, but also it's in pools, it's on the ice, it's on the court, it's on the mat, it's running cross country, it's playing golf. They are essential and unique American experience. For those of you who can guess, we're not from here, Angela and I, and somewhat routinely we have to remind our students that the American experience, / the Canadian to copy, my Canadian friends, is that this is an American experience. There is no version of this in any other country. The fact that you get such a rich chance to work and create relationships and have this life-changing doesn't happen for other people who go to college. I was at a very large university, there is no version. I could have played on the basketball team. Those of you who see how tall I am will realise that that means there was really just a pickup game. So just before we move on to the formal parts, again, thank you very much everyone for joining us tonight, supporting the family and friends. Each generation creates a legacy. Whether it's this group now who are doing things that down the track we're going to say, that was amazing. Or whoever it is, individuals. I forgot to mention, this year, I know Izzy is here, 2 of his players scored 2,000, or reached 2,000 points on the same day, and we were playing in the Palestra in a special game, which is an iconic location, and to have 2 players reach that milestone on the same day was a great example of, again, a team that's doing incredible things. One of those players happens to be a junior, so who knows how many points he'll end up scoring. So again, on every team, people are finding ways to be successful. So again, thank you very much everyone for joining us and celebrating the amazing talents. Thank you.
All right, now we get on to our program. Leading off, our first honoree is Allie Christofko. I would like to invite her sister, Lauren, to come on up here to the stage and share some thoughts about her Allie.
name is mentioned is Lauren Christopher, and I'm elated to be here today to introduce my sister, sorry, I have to say Allison Christopher Howard, as she's inducted into the Wilkes Athletic Hall of Fame. I remember the early days learning to play tennis with Allison at our local high school tennis courts. Before you were too concerned with the rules of play and preferred instead to see how far you could launch tennis balls outside the court fences. If you haven't played tennis, the goal is inside the fence and like actually in the court. I'm pretty sure Mom appreciated the end of that phase. What I also remember is that we grew up in a small town and that we were involved in similar activities. That means we attended the same small schools and largely participated in the same activities, in this case, tennis. I know that more than once you've heard, "Oh, you're Lauren's younger sister," almost as if you were an extension of me and not your own individual with your own accomplishments and goals. What I think should be clear to the attendees today in reading your bio is just how decorated and accomplished you are, both on and off the court. As one of the winningest female tennis players in the Wilkes program's history, earning many conference distinctions and titles, and leading your team to 4 consecutive conference titles. You've demonstrated on your own just how worthy you are of being honored here today as part of the 2024 Wilkes Athletic Hall of Fame. Allison, we are honored to be here to celebrate you and all of your athletic achievements today. I know I speak for all of us here and for those of us who are here in spirit that we're incredibly proud of you. Congrats on the well-deserved recognition, and way to go, Allie Kay.
Ladies and gentlemen, Allie Christopher.
Okay. I did write down a bit of a speech and I brought tissues. I apologize in advance. I didn't think I would need them before I even started. Okay. What is so exciting to be here today? I'm just simply so honored, and thank you to the Hall of Fame committee and all the people who voted to be able to put me here today. I'm just so honored to be part of the group and to be here with you guys to celebrate one of the largest accomplishments for my athletic career, if not the biggest athletic accomplishment I've ever had. And of course, like all the other nominees and inductees, I have so many people to thank. Of course, my mom, my sister, who you've already met, my husband, who always joked that the only way his last name would get in the Hall of Fame was through me. My Graham, who was so excited to see herself in some of these pictures. Aunts and uncles and my Aunt Kathy's here today. Some of my friends, my in-laws, my whole other side of the family is here today. Friends, teammates, coaches, there's just, endless people that I would like to thank. And on the topic of coaches, of course, Coach Light, who is traveling with his other team today, but I obviously would not be up here without him because he recruited me to come play. And he was such a great mentor and a great inspiration, even when I was not the most coachable player. And of course, all the other people that throughout my career that I worked with, like independent coaches like Matt Stockton, Rick Jones, my high school coaches, Dr. Palmer, Mr. Ray, the list seems endless when we play tennis for 20 years or more. So I guess with all of that being said, it of course takes a village to support an athlete from the time they first pick up a racket or a ball to the time that they could be on a stage doing something like this. There's many lessons and tournaments, Subway sandwiches in the car, cold weather days, so many different things that go into being able to accomplish something like this. And those people are with you for every win, every defeat. They save newspaper clippings and laminate them, give them to you next time they see you. So there's so much that goes into it, it's amazing.
a speech today, just in the whirlwind of thinking of all of the people I would like to thank, I almost kind of overlooked my own personal accomplishment. I think it's so easy to overlook the work that you've put in as an athlete because you know of the efforts from other people to get you where you are. So I had to kind of take some time and really be mindful that, like, I also did earn this, even though the whole is the sum of its parts. And I think it goes without being said, like Melanie's here today, fellow Hall of Fame member, but Wilkes tennis was such a special time in my life. We had such incredible teams. We were such a tight-knit group of people. The days are long, but the years are short, and the group that I was with just created such a dynasty of Wilkes tennis, and it made being a student athlete something I'll never forget. I always look back on that time very fondly. And maybe lastly, apologize in advance for some emotion here, but I'd like to take a moment to thank my dad. If you were in any way familiar with Wilkes tennis flags here, you knew my dad. He was the biggest fan. He attended every single match I ever played in high school and in college. He and my mom were true road warriors and traveled all the way from Maine to Hilton Head, South Carolina to watch me hit tennis balls. The Emma's support is, forever felt. My dad had passed away at the end of 2023, very surprisingly. And this milestone is largely because of him, so I'd like to dedicate this honor to him today. He was my first coach, and he really got me into the life of the game, so I'm just honored to be here, and I would like to dedicate this to him. But thank you for the honor of having me today. Go Wilkes.
Well, you didn't get through this without having a dry eye. I'd like to now bring up our Director of Wrestling, the head men's and women's wrestling coach here at Wilkes University, and a likely future Hall of Famer, John Laudenschlager. As previously mentioned, John is here to conduct Chris Light into the Hall of Fame. When we did this, we kind of knew that Chris wouldn't be available. He was going to be coaching his team down at Monmouth today. So we kind of thought about some different ideas. I was like, well, who worked with him? Who knew him best here? And John was one of those guys. And so John has graciously agreed to stand up here and talk a little bit about Chris and the dynasty as Allen. When I first got here to Wilkes, I went to the gym and I looked at those NCAA appearances and I saw men's and women's tennis for like 15 straight years. I said, you know what? Winning is possible here. And that would make me really, really excited. So, John Laudenschlager.
Thank you. First, congrats, Allie, Paul, golf team, certainly Dave, next. But Chris, I guess I'm the only coach still here. Maybe that was when Chris was here, right? I think I started pretty much the same time Chris did. So we did a lot of outside things outside of coaching. We played golf. We beat Garth Joe. Where's Garth? Me and Chris would play against Garth and Jerry Ricker. And sometimes we beat them, sometimes we lose. But I think that there's a lot of parallels that me and Chris had as people. I think I want to be coaching women's wrestling too because I didn't have an understanding. I don't think you understand until you coach both sports. It's a lot of work. I'm finding out it's a lot of work. He did men's and women's for so many years, and he's coaching them now. But I think he's as a great coach. He instilled all punctuality. I can tell you probably better than me. But I don't know what drills he did, but I'm sure he instilled hard work. Chris was a super hard worker. Back in the early 20s, from 2022, 2002 or those early years. Chris would, I'd go in early and maybe lift and do some of those early things. Chris would be there. He'd be there working hard. But I'm sure he really pushed his players, men or female, and found a way to coach all of them. I think Allie alluded to that. Every player's different. Some of them don't seem coachable. I'm sure you were coachable, Allie. He found a way to coach everybody. I think he built good teams, right? He created good environments. I think once you do that, once you build that first great environment, it's very easy to keep tacking on good players on either side. So Chris found ways to do that. And he was super competitive. He wanted to win. And I think when you're super competitive, you try to race. You'll do the extra things to win. Chris was always willing to go out and out recruit kids, out recruit other coaches, put extra time in it. Chris was just he was a great coach. He was a great friend, and he's certainly very deserving. I had two. This was my notes, by the way. These crayons. If you look at that, the trophy case in our gym, he's got his own trophy case. He's got his own trophy case. There's 26 plaques in there of championships, 23 of which are his. But I would really consider all 26 his. Even after he left those next year and a half or 2 years, I think those were a product of his teams. So congratulations, Chris. I know you want to be here. I talked to him yesterday. Just well deserved, and I'm very, very proud of him.
Hello everybody, this is Chris Light checking in from the Jersey Shore. Sorry I couldn't be there for this amazing ceremony. Our men's team's actually qualified for the CAA championships, and we're headed down to Elon University, so super excited for that. But just want to say thank you so much for this amazing honor. I'm just super, super excited, as is all my friends and family, so I appreciate everything. First want to say congrats to all the Hall of Famers. I looked at the list, and it's an incredible group of individuals and team that made it, so congrats. A very special congrats to one of my former players, Ali Christofko. I was so excited that she was honored. It was a privilege for me to be able to coach Ali for 4 years, get to know her, also her family. Was always very important and special to me. Some of my best trips were of those years when we used to travel down to Hilton Head Island, South Carolina after spring break. Ali's family would always take great care of us. Cook us a meal, come cheer for us at the matches. So some of my best memories are with Ali and her family. Some of her records, both team and individual, I don't think will ever be broken. So she was the best player, and I'm very thankful that I was able to be her coach. So super excited for her. As everybody knows, Wilkes is such a special place for me. I was able to grow up on Wilkes campus. I actually lived on campus. 2 of my 3 kids were born there, so it holds a very special place in my heart. My kids remember it. Now they're headed off to college, which is scary, but definitely remember Wilkes fondly. And I love all the people that I was able to come across while I was there. Again, such a special place. Special thanks also to my players and assistant coaches. They helped really create the dynasty that we had there. They believed in me and the program, and just kind of bought into everything. So really special group that I was able to coach. Thanks to all my colleagues there. I really learned a lot from my Wilkes colleagues, especially John, and Jerry, some of the coaches that were there while I was there. We had some of our best, I think, staff meetings, either in the cafeteria or on the golf course. We kind of learned from each other, but they really helped shape me as a coach. So I want to thank those guys. And then finally, my family, like I said, my kids, my 3 daughters mean everything to me. They have very great memories. I have pictures of them holding up our championship trophies at Wilkes, and they're special times for me. My parents, same thing. They were always at our matches and our championships, along with my siblings. Just have great memories. So anyway, John and Vince made me do this video, so I wish I was there and to do this in person. And it's an amazing honor. I'm so thankful, and congrats again to everybody else. Goodbye.
Special thanks to Vince Caldo, our Assistant AD and Sports Information Director, for coordinating making that video happen. Appreciate that. Now I'd like to introduce Danny House, who's going to induct our 3rd honoree of the evening, David Gregrow. Danny is a member of the class of 1978, so also a part of the phenomenal Wilkes wrestling tradition. He has a few great words to say about David.
I know you're waiting. Get over there. Thank you.
son, Danny House. I'm very happy and honored to be here to be part of this occasion at my alma mater. Throughout the wrestling career, I'm here to really honor David Guerrero. Now, throughout his wrestling career, which actually started in Newark Valley. I don't know if you know where Newark Valley is. It's upstate New York someplace. Never heard of it. But he left a legacy there. Then, after taking a short detour at West Point, which some of you don't know about, and Coach Reese did, he went and stole them from them, their all-star game. Okay. Then he came to Wilkes, and he gradually started with his perfect skills. Coming from a conservative background, let me talk about his skills. Coming from a conservative background, I have to say that with Dave's skills, one of the things he liked to do was run. And he ran a lot. I mean, a heck of a lot. And he ran to lose weight. Well, let me tell you about a story I heard. When I first came up here as a young man, I heard about this crazy thing called streaking. Well, let me tell you about the streaking. Now, I came from the South, as I was saying earlier. Now, very conservative Baptist background. You know, ladies, if you show your ankle, you're showing too much. Okay. But when I got here, I heard about streaking on the campus. And in particular, one day, there was 3 guys streaking on campus. Now, I'm going to say that my experience was that one of the guys was described as 190 pounds, 6'1", and blonde hair. Now, I'm not going to say anything about it, but I do know that those persons were never identified, nor were they court. But let me tell you another thing about Dave. He had this crazy move that no one could get out of. And he strived for perfection. And in striving for perfection, he really, really worked this move very well. It was called a crossbody ride. I don't know if you know what it is. You know, you get down and you got an arm and leg. And... Well, anyway, Dave perfected this move. Dave, I hated that move. And the reason I hated it was because every time coach would put us in situational positions, and he would tell you, get in your favorite move, Dave wouldn't pick anything else to practice on. He would practice with me on that move. And I hated it because I could never get out of it. So with his profession, with his perfection, working for it, Dave always was unparalleled in his dedication and unwavering commitment to excellence and perfectionism. He left his indelible mark here at Wilkes. And with that, in 1976, debuted at the Eastern Collegians, the Eastern Intercollegiate Wrestling Association. They placed 5th the first year. But then, 78 and 77 and 78, he placed 3rd. And he qualified to go to the Nationals. Then he held the school record for the quickest pin. Now, I pinned a lot of people. Dave pinned someone in 8 seconds, which was unbelievable. And the person, I don't think one person has actually tied that, and I think that's Khalid, coach, right? Yep, he tied it this year. He's on the 2025 team. But Dave held that record for 45 years. Okay, 45 years. So with that, I won't tell you how old he is, but anyway. But with his accomplishments and his inspired countless athletic, so he can count with athletes alike, he now has a new fan club member. Her name is Davina. He has his granddaughter over there with my goddaughter. She with Davina. Oh, she's not even here. Okay, all right. But that's his new fan club. So please, give Dave a well-warm welcome. And congratulations to you, Dave. Thank you for your dedication and your teamwork and making me who I was. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Kirk.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Kramer.
Well, I wasn't expecting some of those stories. So good afternoon, everyone. You know, as I was walking up here just now, I had a thought pop in my head. It's a fear that wrestlers sometimes have of tripping on the edge of the mat as you're running out. At least I didn't fall on the stairs. Still can't believe it. So I want to start my remarks by making a reference to a Bruce Springsteen song, Glory Days. The chorus of that song talks about how they are gone in, quote, the wink of a young girl's eye. That is so true. You don't realize it at the time, but those days pass so quickly. So, I want to sincerely thank the Hall of Fame Selection Committee and Wilkes University for giving my fellow inductees and me another day of glory, another moment in the sun. I am incredibly humbled and extremely honored to be selected for this induction. I have the deepest respect for the achievements of those of you in the induction class and for all the accomplished athletes, coaches, and administrators that are already in the Hall of Fame. I want to commend everyone here seated, coming today to honor your favorite inductee and also the rest of the Hall of Fame. I want to thank my Wrestling and Hall of Fame teammate, Danny House, for that wonderful introduction and for being a lifelong close friend. Thank you, Danny. I also want to thank Barbara King for taking the time and making the effort to nominate me for this prestigious honor, and for putting up with me when we were co-workers here at Wilkes, and continuing to do so for the many years since. Thank you, Barbara. A big shout out to my incredible assistant coaches here at Wilkes, Brookie Yeager and John Marfield, as I sincerely appreciate all the techniques, training, and moral support they shared with the team and me, and my teammates. Every single one, not just the starters. Thank you for surrounding me with such talent and work ethic that pushed each one of us to be our very best. Here at Wilkes, there is such a special chemistry with the wrestling team, where we develop lifelong friendships that even bridge over the generations of wrestlers. Each one of us is so privileged to have met each other here and to forever be part of the Wilkes wrestling family. I want to thank my loving parents, Lillian and Roy Gregory. They grew up during the Great Depression era, which taught them many tough life lessons that they turned around and instilled in me, including don't settle, aim for the stars. Despite the obstacles, work, very hard. No matter how difficult, never, never give up. All these traits translated well into wrestling. So my parents gave me the solid foundation. Then Coach John Reese built a strong wrestling framework on top of it. I am here today absolutely because of Coach Reese. He made me better than I had any right to be. Sorry. I can't express my thanks big enough for that priceless gift. Coach Reese was a tremendous coach and a wonderful human being. And what an incredible journey he enabled my teammates and me to have, including amazing experiences that I'm so thankful for, such as my very first year here at Wilkes, though I was ineligible for transferring in, and thanks to Danny for pointing that out. Coach carried our team to the 1974 Division III National Championship. The next year, my first as starter, he got us ranked #1 in D3 through the regular season, and we finished the national tournament with third place hardware. The following year, I was on the first team that moved to Division I, making Wilkes the smallest college in the nation to compete at that level. We went head-to-head in dual meets against teams such as Lehigh, Syracuse, Navy, Army, Cornell, Oregon State, Penn State, just to name a few. And against those teams, the old gym would be packed to the rafters with standing room only crowds. And with regard to those crowds, I want to be sure to say thank you to our loyal fans for that hugely motivating environment that they created for us in that gym. It definitely gave us an important competitive edge. What memorable and thrilling experiences. In line with Coach's philosophy that you only get better if you wrestle the best, he also gave me the awesome opportunity to face multiple national champions and several D1 All-Americans. Actually, my very first varsity match was televised at the infamous, intimidating Snake Pit at Lehigh University against the defending Division I national champion. Man, that was some serious introduction to college wrestling. And there's so many more remarkable moments. What great exploits Coach opened up for us and the valuable life lessons that he passed on to my teammates and me. I thank him immensely for each and every one. I also want to thank current coach John Laudenslager for continuing the tradition of wrestling excellence and for keeping the closeness of the Wilkes wrestling family alive and flourishing. Thanks, John. Now to start the wrap up. For everyone that knew Coach Reese, you may remember that his trademark was his Argyle socks. He wore it every match. So in memory of Coach, and to have a piece of him here with me tonight, I decided to wear Argyle specifically for the ceremony. Check it out. Finally, I'd like to finish with a short quote from Robert Brault that applies to my wrestling experience here, and actually to each and every one of us. Enjoy the little things, for one day you may look back and realize they were the big things. Thank you, everybody, especially Wilkes University. I will forever cherish this great honor. Thank you.
Thanks again, Dave. Mark Jones is going to induct our next group, which is the 1972 golf team. Members of that squad, Rich Burkheiser, 73. John Corbett, 72. Jerry Stankovich, 73. Gary Williams, 72. Bill Burkheiser, 72. Dave Davis, 73. And Bob Dwyer, 75. John and Bill, unable to be here with us tonight, but it is great to see the rest of you gentlemen here on campus. And so now I would like to turn it over to a Hall of Fame member himself, class of 2002, a Golden Award alum, Garth Jones.
Welcome, everybody. This is very nice. On the occasions where, the rare occasions where I have an opportunity to speak to people, I remember a story about a fifth grade class of kids that were asked to do an essay on Socrates. And, you know, they wrote all kinds of things. Well, one little boy wrote 3 lines. He wrote, Socrates, he lived a long time ago. He talked a lot. He was poisoned. So with that in mind, I'm going to keep my remarks short. All right. It is a pleasure to present the 71-72 team into the Hall of Fame. They are the first and, to date, the only golf team in the Hall of Fame, so that's special. They are actually the 18th team from all of Wilkes sports that are in the Hall of Fame. Interesting tidbit, there are only 202 people in the Hall of Fame out of approximately 10,000 athletes that we know have played sports here. So it's a rare 2% if you make it into the Hall. So that's pretty cool. And when they won in 71-72, they beat 22 other schools. And they won the tournament by 5 strokes over Susquehanna, which is nice because Susquehanna beats us in a lot of things these days. It's also noteworthy that half of the team that is being honored here tonight that didn't graduate won the MAC the following year. In that time, they beat 20 teams, and they won the championship over Juniata by 1 stroke. I have to just mention, because he was my coach, they were coached by the incomparable Rolly Schmidt, who was not only a coach for football during the Golden War days, but he also coached several baseball championship, MAC championship teams. And his coach, his assistant coach, was Carl Zulkowski. Both those fellows have passed on, and but I believe there may be a chance that Carl's wife, who is in Arizona, might be watching this on the live feed. That's what I think. So congratulations to your husband for helping these guys win back-to-back. Back-to-backs in sports aren't easy. And so this occurred 53 years ago. So you think, okay, I graduated in 72. And you're thinking, okay, they were all 20, 21 years old. So that would make us, and then I realized you can tell how old we are by when you hear us stand up. And so I believe with that, we're ready to introduce our gunners. By the way, we tried for a couple of years, 2 years really, to try and reach John Corbett. He couldn't make it, well, he can't make it because we can't find him. Mary Simmons and I really tried to find him. We can't find him. We don't know where he is. And Bill Burkheiser, again, Bill, if you're out there, I think you've got the link. I think you're watching. Congratulations. I'm sure some of your teammates will mention you. But he had a very serious injury not too long ago. He lives in Utica, and he just couldn't make the trip down. So we're thinking about him. Bill.
give us a second while they decide who's going to actually get to go up here first. Ladies and gentlemen, the 1972 Hall of Fame men's golf team.
Hi folks, I'm Gary Williams. I was on the 72 squad. My dad started playing golf when he was 40 years old, which is kind of late in life. And I followed shortly after. I was about 13 when I started playing golf. I played at a course, and I still play at the same course, which is about 10 miles away in Lincoln, Pennsylvania. It's a 9-hole course. The longest hole on this course is about 320 yards. And there's no sand in the course either. So when I was at Wilkes, I was really challenged because I really didn't play long irons. I didn't play fairway woods. The course just didn't allow for that. So I was pretty good in the short game, but the long game really gave me difficulty. So I would go to these courses. I was the 5th man on the team, not a 6th, so I was not the star, that's for sure. And I'd go to the long courses, and I'd have to hit fairway woods. I'd have to hit out of the sand, which was a real challenge for me, and still is today. But the only thing I can remember about that 72 tournament was coming up to the last hole, and I saw Coach Schmidt, and I saw a bunch of the guys around Coach Schmidt, and I think he wasn't looking at me, and I think he was encouraging the other golfers, the other teammates, not to look at me as well. So I thought things were really close. I had about a 3 or 4 foot putt. I don't remember if it was for a par or for a bogey, but I just thank God no one said, Williams, you have to make this putt, because I don't know what would happen. Thank you very much for the honor.
Hi, I'm Jerry Stankiewicz. Just bear with me a second. I'd like to make sure my sophomore class speech professor is not in the audience. I think it's going to be a good day. He's not here. Congratulations to all the new Hall of Fame inductees. Amazing accomplishments. I'd like to thank Still, Mayor, Garfield, Jones, for arranging a get-together, a luncheon, with our fellow teammates, as well as their managing this memorable event. Let it be known that this was a milestone in my career, amongst having met teammates who I haven't seen in literally 54 years. This is remarkable. After having seen how many of our area accomplished amateur golfers participated in the MAC tournament throughout the years, and this could be done by visiting the website that I found that shows the scores from the MAC golf tournament as far back as 1950. There were a lot of good golfers that played in the MAC tournament. Until I saw that, I didn't realize how important this award is. I realized how important our 2 consecutive tourneys were as a result, being in such company. Should you have read George Polish's book, Zeus and the Boys, which I think most of you know about, it's quite a book because I do have a few items to quote. And one of the items I mentioned was that I asked George to put all of my team members. Even at the age of 73, I knew all the team members by heart. Unfortunately, my team members were not put in that book. But should you read George Polish's book, Zeus and the Boys, you would understand how fortunate our teammates were to witness Coach Goley's legendary coaching, both on and off the gridiron and golf links. To say he was a remarkable individual is an understatement. Our team is deeply honored to be part of this Wilkes Hall of Fame. Thank you.
First, I want to thank, my name is Bob Dwyer. I was a freshman on the 72 team. I was fortunate to come into a team that had 6 guys returning that had won the championship the prior year. So I was more or less their caddy my freshman year. Got to play a little bit towards the end of the year. And enjoyed all the camaraderie and the competition with my teammates. But golf, for me, goes back many years to when I first caddied at Knickerbocker Country Club in Tenafly, New Jersey. Eventually came to Wilkes and found out that they had just won an MAC championship the year before, and they played at a country club. Well, I was used to playing at local county courses, so that was instrumental in getting me to come to Wilkes. Over my years, I have to say that golf is, in my life, has been in probably a very important, integral part of every great thing that's happened to me. And I have been very fortunate and blessed. I'll give you away a little secret. If you ever get into one of my online accounts and you get to a security question saying, where did you meet your wife? I can tell you, I met my wife at Mill Race Golf Course in Benton, Pennsylvania. So the answer is Benton. She wasn't a golfer, but she was at a charity tournament, much like the Ralston, the event coming up on next week. And she was the clerk registering the teams. And I was introduced to her, and 40 years later, we're still together. That was one great thing. The second was meeting Carl Zukowski and Coach Rolly Schmidt. Like everybody here who's ever been coached by them, you cannot explain how impactful they were on my life. Rolly was quiet, reserved, but he would take you aside and he would coach you just by whispering in your ear and giving you advice. And he changed my outlook towards how I look towards myself and competition and what I could do in life. But the other big thing was I met Carl Zukowski, who many of you don't know is a stockbroker. And that's what I've been in the finance world for the last 40 years. And Carl, during our van rides, he was really the, what do you say, guys, the team humorist. And he would tell the jokes and try to keep us loose. But he also talked about the stock market, which piqued my interest in that field. I eventually got into that field and was fortunate enough for 10 years to work side by side with Carl in the stock market business. And over those years, his generosity in teaching me as a rookie, once again, all the ins and outs of how the financial markets work were invaluable to me in the success of my career. So I want to thank again Wilkes for putting on this show. I want to thank Stella for the luncheon, like Jerry said. And I want to thank my great friend Garth Jones for helping, being instrumental in getting this team put into the hall. Thank you.
My name is Rich Burkeiser, very pleased member of the 71-72 MAC Golf Championship team. I am humbled and so honored to be here to see all these great athletes and knowing by playing athletics, the dedication, time, effort that they had to put in to get to where they are. Okay? And this evening I'm especially grateful to Garth because he first contacted me through some other people, and they said, you've got to call this guy, you've got to call this guy. And I kept thinking, well, I've got so many things going on right now, I don't know. And the more I thought about being part of the team and being part of Wilkes, how much it really meant to me. You know, you are in life, your perception of life is shaped by your experiences. And I think back and I thought back about all these experiences as a team member and as a student at Wilkes and all the things that it helped me do in growing up. And Wilkes and the game of golf has taken me to just different heights within my own sport and other things. And I'm just so grateful for everybody here to even be considered for something like this. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Dave Davis, and I'm certainly thrilled to stand here today and look out at this audience and folks that are in the Hall of Fame and the great things that they've done. Before I get started, and I'll make this very brief, but I said to Dave, he was showing off his Argyle socks, Coach Reese. Well, this bow tie was Dean Walston's bow tie. So it's something... You know, it's one of the great things about Wilkes being the type of school that it was and that it is now. I mean, being a member of the golf team, we got to know a lot of other athletes, and you know, we got to know each other really well. And I think that's really important. The educational experiences, just the life experiences of being here at Wilkes are just phenomenal. I'll tell one quick story, and you know, I think Gary alluded to Coach when he needed a putt. I can't remember the golf course we were at. I can't remember the team event that the team we were playing. But I happened to hit a fairly good drive on the 9th hole, or the 18th hole. We started on the backside. And I walked up to my ball and I shanked it. I don't know if everyone knows what a shank is, but it went out of bounds. And the coach was standing up a little bit high. And I dropped the ball and I hit another shank. And I could see him just shaking his head. I think I made a 9 on the hole. Coach was gone. The next hole was a downhill par 4. I hit another very good drive, and I made an eagle. And I looked around, and Raleigh wasn't anywhere to be found. But it was a great experience. It was great having him as a coach. And Carl Zukowski was our team humorist. It was great. One other little thing I'll leave you with, and I guess this was good. One of the great lessons from Raleigh, and I knew Raleigh in a lot of different ways. I caddied for him. I worked the summer with him. I also played competitively against Raleigh. But one of the things he taught me as a golfer, he said, David, when you get finished and you get into the 19th hole, order 2 beers the first time, because you never know how long it will take to get the second. But thank you very much. This is a great honor. It's great to be with everyone in this room. Thank you all.
Congratulations again to the 1972 MAC champion men's golf program. Our final honoree this evening is one everybody knows so well, Paul Adams. And I'd like to invite up my predecessor, Addie Malatesta, a Hall of Famer in her own right. She was inducted last spring. She is going to introduce Dr. Adams. Addie Malatesta.
Thank you, Scott. Congratulations to today's class of inductees, and thank you to the Hall of Fame Committee for all of your good work. And now it's my privilege to introduce our final inductee, Dr. Paul Adams. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "To handle yourself, use your head. To handle others, use your heart." Members of the campus community, alums, coaches, and student athletes will attest this statement to be true of Paul Adams. Paul never exercised his authority over people or rushed to judgment. In difficult times, we look to Paul for reassurance and transparency. And when challenged with a tough decision, Paul's first step was to engage in careful reflection. He methodically weighed the consequences of his actions, engaged the appropriate individuals, and determined an action plan to ensure the best possible outcome. Paul has dedicated a lifetime of service to Wilkes. He arrived on campus as a student athlete. and played football for legendary coach Roy Schmidt. When asked to reflect on the changes in athletics over the span of his career, Paul responded, "Whether it's 30 years ago or today, I think that being a student athlete still teaches a lot of life lessons, including teamwork, perseverance, task management, wellness, and being committed to something bigger than yourself." Paul's 43-year professional career encompassed a myriad of leadership roles. Just to name a few: Director of Residence Life, Dean of Student Affairs, Vice President for Student Affairs, and Interim President. As the Vice President for Student Affairs, Paul inherited direct oversight of the Department of Athletics. During his tenure, sports sponsorship expanded to 23 teams, encompassing nearly 600 student athletes. As our new VP, Paul immediately went to work to enhance campus visibility and broaden the reach of the athletic department. Under his supervision, being a member of the athletic department took on new meaning. Coaches felt that they had a place in the campus community. As the Director of Athletics, I became a member of the Student Affairs senior staff. Head coaches were appointed to the University Search Committee, the Enrollment Committee, and the Strategic Planning Committee. We are indebted to Paul for clearing the path for members of the athletic department to help shape the student experience. Under Paul's watch, athletics experienced the transformation of Schmidt Stadium, the addition of Rutherworth Field, the renovation of the Munson Fieldhouse, the creation of a plan to renovate the Henry Gymnasium. Paul understood the critical needs for facility enhancements as well as the fiscal challenges. He made an extraordinary effort to convey the message to his colleagues on cabinet and took the time to speak with potential donors. In 2020, as the interim president, Paul rose to meet the monumental challenge to keep the campus community safe during the COVID-19 pandemic. The athletic department staff and student athletes will forever be grateful to Paul for his considerate approach during the pandemic. His trust and support in us to follow the NCAA medical guidance allowed student athletes to practice and compete while other institutions suspended competition. Paul recognized how important it was for student athletes to feel a sense of normalcy and continue to engage with their coaches. As a result, the coaches retained our student athletes, which helped to stabilize university enrollment. Paul references the power of relationships, professionally and personally. He is known to exhaust all possibilities to help a student in need, serve as best counsel to a colleague, and unselfishly go the extra distance to benefit others. I would like to think that Paul would agree with poet Maya Angelou's comment on the power of personal relationships when she said, "I sustain myself with the love of family." Jean and Paul shared their Wilkes journey side by side for more than 4 decades, and their daughters Lindsay and Caroline became an important part of the Wilkes family. As we celebrate the Hall of Fame class of 2024 in the Jean and Paul Adams Commons, it is my distinct honor to introduce Dr. Paul Adams.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Paul Adams.
Joke to achieve
Gene in the car on the way up about we were going to hang this in the house. She told me I could hang it above our bed. That won't happen. Addie, thank you. It was just 1 year ago that I stood at this podium to welcome Addie and Melanie and Lincoln back with Lincoln into the Hall of Fame. And I can honestly say that the last thing I imagined then would be that I would be standing here in this privileged position this year. It certainly was a genuine surprise when Hall of Fame committee member Mark Rado called me to share the news. Mark's been a special friend of mine for a very long time. We've always shared a unique bond. We've known each other since I was 19 and he was probably 18, and members of the football team playing on the offensive line, living in what was then known as the new men's dorm. Mark and I, if you don't get to drift from when people refer to my football playing career, we would be best described as support players in those days. But it was that experience of being a member of the football team that instilled in me way back then our love of Colonel Athletics. I never have the appropriate words to say thank you to Addie. Her words are always more than generous. She's always been a special colleague to me and so many others, many of you in this room. No one has had more influence over Colonel Athletics for the past 30 years than Addie. Her commitment to her student athletes, both as a coach and administrator, set an example for us all. She taught me so much about athletics, but more importantly, how to support each other as colleagues, how to best support our student athletes. I'm blessed to have shared so much with her. I want to thank the Hall of Fame Committee and the Athletics Department, President Can, and the Alumni Office for honoring me in this way. I've always loved Wilkes Athletics and being included with these 202, as Garth mentioned, pillars of Wilkes Athletics in the Hall of Fame already evokes in me a bit of the imposter syndrome. Those who came before me as members of this hall, particularly George Ralston, Art Hoover, and Jim Ferris, inspired and guided me during my career at Wilkes. And I'm so ever appreciative for all that they have done for me. I do want to mention that for this Hall of Fame, I did want to thank you for including the 1972 golf team, so I didn't have to be the oldest person. But I do want to congratulate the 1972 golf team, several of whom I've known over the years. Allie, to Chris, and Dave, for their Hall of Fame recognition. Dave and I go way back. He may not remember this, but we go all the way back to our first English 101 class in Bedford Hall with Dr. Charlotte Boyd back in 1973. The recognition bestowed upon you, Allie, Chris, Dave, and the golf team today as former student athletes, I'm not including myself in that, is the university's commendation that you've exceeded the standard and achieved at a level we should all aspire to. You've set an example for us of what it is to be excellent in all we do, and to be, as we say, Colonel. Talk about being Colonel among the student athletes. The recognition bestowed upon you today is our Wilkes community's recognition of the choices and sacrifices that you make. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, the reward of a thing well done is to have done it. And what should make you most proud is not the Hall of Fame recognition of what you had to achieve. I'll be forever honored to have my Hall of Fame plaque hanging on the same wall with so many members of the Wilkes family who've meant so much to me over the years. Having spent the majority of my life at Wilkes, I can say that I've had the privilege of knowing many of the student athletes and colleagues whose photographs line the walls of the Hall of Fame room. No one more influential to me than Dean George Ralston. Mark already paid tribute to the Dean, but I would be remiss not to. Dean, as Mark said, was in the first Hall of Fame class back in 1993 and started the athletics program at Wilkes College. And of course, our athletics complex is named in his honor. He's a seminal figure in the history of Wilkes, not for just his role in athletics, but for his influence on thousands and thousands of Wilkes students during his 50-plus years on campus. Dean Ralston was my dean when I was a student at Wilkes, and 2 years after I graduated from Wilkes, he hired me to begin my professional career at Wilkes. The dean came to Wilkes after a stellar career as a student athlete at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. At UNC, the dean was inducted into the oldest and highest honor society at Chapel Hill, known as the Order of the Golden Fleece, recognizing his success as a scholar and his excellence on the football and baseball fields. While the dean always maintained his tar-heeled loyalty, no one has ever been more colonel than he was. He was the gold standard of what it is to be colonel. He'd be the first to stand up and applaud Allie, Chris, Dave, and the golf team for their dedication and success and for the high honor they are receiving today. I did want to recognize special colleagues who are here this afternoon. I already mentioned Addie, but I also want to acknowledge Barbara King, who's here today, Mark Allen, Bridget Junta, Gabby D'Amico, Sue Ritzak, Paige, wherever Paige is. You stood with me in moments of challenge, but more importantly, we all worked together to ensure that our young people succeeded beyond anything they could have ever imagined for themselves. It's been a privilege to share in our growth journey together. I want to make a special thank you to our special friends Sue and Greg McLean who are here. Sue and Jean go all the way back to kindergarten in Emerson, New Jersey, and came to Wilkes together in 1974. Greg was a stellar wrestler on Dave's teams. He was wrestling at Wilkes, a former member of our board of trustees, so thank you for being here. To our immediate family, Lindsay, Caroline, CJ, Jack, and Alex, you are the blessings of Jean's in my life, enriching our lives with each and every moment. We love you more than you can imagine. And I also want to remember my mom tonight, who passed away in November at the age of 98. Even though I wasn't much on the field during my 4 years as a Colonel football player, she and my dad traveled every home game to cheer on the Colonels. You realize what a sacrifice that is when you become a parent, and I recognize that so much about my parents. And to Jean, the love of my life, whose arrival at Wilkes in 1974 tethered me to Wilkes like no one else could ever have. Her love and support all these years made my experience at Wilkes possible and so much better than I could have ever had without her. Thank you all very much.
I'm not even going to try to top that. So I just want to thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Go Colonels.